Hey, this is Ed Rick from Ed Rick Drums, and it's been my pleasure to be a part of the iWalter podcast.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Hello, everyone. This is Walter from iWalter. It is December 4th, 2016. It's only a few weeks left in this year, and it's going to be over. Now, I actually had to use Ed Rick in the beginning because I really liked his voice and the fact that I hope you enjoyed that show. And I'm going to try to take off the last 2 weeks of the year if I can. And in doing so, I actually want to do stuff I promised I was going to do for quite a while. Like, one is the one guy I met from Canada. I want to do a show dedicated to his MP3s, his music. I got a couple things, not a lot. I always say that and hoping that I can actually turn into something more than, maybe just a few moments. The one I did with, actually I have to thank my friend Matt because he was the one who actually helped me with that show. Because I wouldn't really know what to talk about with Ed Rick. I kind of mentioned that to him. So, Matt, thank you for helping me. I've been actually, I don't want to say under the weather, but I've been really sore. I said to a friend, and he said, yeah, well, when you get older, you expect more to happen. Yeah, it's true. But it's a little more, it's too simple just to say, well, it's just because of age. I mean, that does play, a factor into, I'm almost pushing 50. I will be 50 in the next month or so. It's not until February, but still, beginning of February, it's close enough. But the weather change and just my job in general, what it entails is just takes stress on my body. And generally, it does take a couple days for that to, for me to feel better that I literally can just sleep a whole night with no pain and some other things. So, yeah, I think that's a big part of it too. And I've heard everybody, all types of ages, people of different ages that I talk to. Not that many, but the few I do, I should say. I've said the same thing. They kind of just, feel under the weather, feel tired all the time. Blah, blah, blah. So it's not just, it's all contributed to age. It plays a part, but it's not the whole thing. Yeah, it was, again, thank you. But that's Ed Rick actually, where we went, thanks to Matt, we went to his studio where he I guess I'm going to call it a studio where he actually gives teaches student lessons. So, the thing about going into a sound studio kind of environment, the walls are obviously padded. You definitely get a better acoustic sound, even though it's not acoustic. I'm not using the right word, but you get a better voice level than you do even probably now. And it came off really well. And it was just, wow, that does make a difference. Not that I really have the room or money to do that right now. I'd have to change where I actually live, my living quarters, which he did. And it's not worth it. If I got more than one or two listeners, actually more, if I got even over, it would take more than 100 for me to say, okay, I'm getting to the point now I'm going to invest money into a sound studio. It's not even remotely close. So I'm not going to do that. But, again, his voice sounded really good. The interview that Matt did with him was really good, too. But bottom line is I just use that for the opening sound clip intro for my show. But there's a couple things I'm going to try to talk about tonight. Nothing special. And I'm going to kind of keep it like where I don't go into any grave detail because it gets that I lose my train of thought when I do that. So I'm going to keep it pretty, superficial, whatever you want to call it. Like if you want to read stories that I might mention, then I'll just give you the link. One actually I just saw, and this was like, okay, I'm going to definitely take. There's a video clip, but I couldn't pull it. And the more I thought about it, I was like, it's not even worth pulling. But it was from a web link called Snoop Pack, and it's about this woman who it says in the title is who's gonna pay my rent. Welfare queen flips out after being denied her entitlement benefits. This was on November 26, 2016. Now somebody just posted they found this. And this woman is like literally using every four-letter, every profound word you can use. Cursing and hollering now. She's lost her benefits, and there's nothing wrong with her. She has no physical problems besides just being lazy and feels a sense of entitlement that she should be given everything. Now, I've mentioned this before, and it comes across from some people when I say that I have no clue what I'm talking about or I'm just plain nuts. Well, both are true. But this time it was actually written in an article that you can't deny the fact that what I'm talking about when I do say stuff like this is not even far from being false, me saying something that is not correct. It is actually, there is people out there, and it's more than just this woman who's like this. She's just the protagonist to this article, but there's probably I would say millions of other people out there. And don't ask me to go find them because I could care less. In the sense of like seeking out, I'm not going on a manhunt for these people that just don't want to work. They're just, it's obvious they're out there. Let me put it that way. This woman just became, I guess her voice was loud enough. They made an article out of it, and even a video. It says a 40-second video can only give you a brief snippet, a moment in time, and nothing more. And it is a video attached to that, by the way. And again, it says, it's like this woman in quotes is like, who's going to pay my rent? Welfare queen flips out after being denied her entitlement benefits. And again, it was from snooppack.com. So you check that out. You can read. There's an article underneath, and there's actually a lot of comments. Now, there's one I did notice, and somebody did point it out, even though pointing out this woman has, she can afford, like, basically she's got tattoos and stuff. And somebody actually, I'm looking at it now, calls her a worthless parasite. That I would agree with 100%. And actually, these are women writing this stuff. So, you can't say, oh, it's these guys who are just attacking women, because it's women who are doing the attacking. Like this one woman, Eileen Lewis wrote, work and pay for it yourself. That's what women do if there is no man around. Welcome to the real world. And it's an older woman, too. It's not like a spring. Well, yeah. This woman's basically saying, hey, if you don't have a man to pay for things, you're going to have to pay for this stuff yourself. So, I give these women who are attacking this pathetic woman from this news article, I applaud these women who are basically saying stuff that I'm probably too afraid to say because I'm a man. I can't say that kind of stuff because it would be taken would be taken too offensively, like I'm being too much of a dominant male, or basically what do you call that? I want to say misanthrope, but what do you call that? Men who hate women. I can't remember that word now. It's going to be on my tip of my it is on the tip of my tongue. Because one friend used to always joke and drive me nuts with that. Call me this particular word. Now I'm going to have to kind of look for this. It'll come to me while I'm looking for it. So it's going to be quiet. Men who hate women are... Men who hate women are called... Oh, misogynist. Thank you. Thank you, Walter. Thank you for finding that. That was iWalter doing his own research like I always do. Now, here's one. It was like, yeah, I'm not going to even bother to read it, simply because if I do, it's a good article from National Review. And it's titled, because it's actually a National Review article, but it was on Dennis Prager's link. It says 10 reasons left-wingers cut Trump voters from their lives. Now, I looked at this and I kind of glanced at it. I'm honestly, I'm not a very good reader anymore. Maybe that comes with age too, or is it just plain, does that actually apply to being just plain lazy? Because everything else in my life applies to being just an old man, but when it comes to not being able to read because I'm just, I don't have the same attention span, then that does not come to age. That just comes to laziness. It's kind of ironic. But I just had to throw that little dig in. But it's a good article. I did glance through it. It's not like it's super long, but it does give 10 reasons on why leftists. But my whole thing was reading through this. It was like disassociating yourself from your loved ones, or, one was like probably like almost broke up in marriage. Definitely girlfriend-boyfriend relationships were broken up. I mean, these are like professionals who have broken all ties because they did not get their way. And that's basically, I'm putting in a nutshell what this article's about. There's a lot more involved. But that's basically what it was saying. Now, at first, I thought this was written by Dennis Prager himself, but no, it was something he had taken notice of. And again, it's some National Review. And again, it's called 10 Reasons Left-Wingers Cut Trump Voters from Their Lives. And I've noticed that at work, I've complained about this quite a lot, especially the females at my job who are, were for Hillary Clinton, even though they don't like her, they were still going to support her because she's a Democrat, because she has a D after her name. So, knowing that I'm, I don't make it hidden. I don't wear T-shirts or advertise, but I'm loud enough, I'm pretty... or not loud enough. I'm pretty forward that, hey, I don't hide the fact that I'm a Trump supporter. I don't advertise it as far as stickers or billboards or anything else, but I will mention in conversation, even to somebody else that I'm sure other people overhear it, that it's very apparent even at my job that I'm a Trump supporter. And I try to specify to people that Donald Trump is not your true, everyday Republican or conservative, even though he is more pushing towards being a conservative now than anything else. And that should appeal to more people, which it did. Because everybody always complains, it'd be nice to have somebody who's a libertarian in office for a change. Well, there you go. You've actually gotten your wish, believe it or not. I mean, basically, this man probably, and they were making all this huff about him, like, if Donald Trump doesn't win, he is going to go for the Libertarian Party. He's going to vote as, or not even Libertarian, independent. I should say independent more so. Which that's what you got. You got an independent who did pick a party, and he decided to pick the Republican side because he has seen in the past, at least the past 8 years, how much of a mess our country's in from Barack Obama. So he decided, well, listen, he realizes that, hey, if I run, which he did actually in 2009, he ran as a Republican candidate, which I respect the man for him backing out because I think that was smart. I think he probably would have had a difficult time against Barack Obama, even though things were bad with him. I think people honestly were too afraid to vote against both parties, were too afraid to vote against the first African-American president. That's the bottom line. And I think that's true. So Donald Trump, as much as he had a lot of pull back in 2009, it was smart of him to back down because it definitely, when Barack Obama was out of the picture, it definitely made it a lot easier for him. By 8 years, people were definitely fed up with what was going on in office. So I think that was a smart move. And again, I'm not going to go through all this stuff. You can read it for yourself from the National Review, going back to that. But it's just like, it's interesting because everything that the left complains about to me, or not directly, or more so indirectly, sometimes actually directly at work, people just give me this huff and they don't even be affiliated with me now if they're they were Hillary supporters, because there's people I can tell just by their nonverbal communication that especially the females are pissed off. Because right beforehand, and I've said this to a couple people, now one friend I think would probably come forth and say, yeah, Walter, I kind of see it myself, because something else had happened that I mentioned to one friend, and he said he had the same experience today on something different, but it was definitely pertaining to women. And there are the little issues of trying to control people or feel as though they're being victimized, which this all started, this whole victimization with females, honestly started with, for over the years, but it definitely got enforced, I think, under the Obama administration. Because Obama's whole thing was, and it's always been the side of the left, is to make women feel like they're victimized and that they're, being raped by men with their eyes, in other ways, and that if you're some sort of minority, which honestly, is there really such a thing as a minority in the United States? Because if you really think about it, what is the United States made up of? It's not made up of any specific ethnicity or ethnic background or religion. It's a melting pot. At least that's the way I was taught when I was a kid from watching Saturday morning cartoons. Not from the cartoons, I mean, but that thing that those little things in between the cartoons where there was that thing about what Congress was about. I can't remember what you call that. Schoolhouse Rock. And then they had this one that you watch until it was like it drove you crazy because they put it like on every 5 seconds on the TV stations on Saturday morning cartoons. Well, hey, America's one great melting pot where we got different cultures, different backgrounds, different religions, different beliefs, all coming together to become a country of one, not a segregated country where we call black people African Americans. We call, there is no other terminology for Chinese, Jewish people, or anything else. They are all conglomerated. It's just, but women are victimized and segregated from the rest of the population to the part that they are extremely victimized. And it's the same thing with black Americans, which we now are forced to call African Americans. So, but all this stuff got reinforced with Donald Trump. Excuse me for that. With Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton would have continued that legacy of making people feel like they need to be segregated from each other because, if you're a WASP, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male, something like that, you're the enemy and you're the one who segregated everybody. It was like, well, this country wasn't founded on segregation. It was actually founded on, probably not at first, but I mean, at least in the late 1800s, early 1900s, this country was founded on that we were a nation made up of different cultures that all came together, but we eventually became one of the same. Even though we, were from different backgrounds, we eventually became one society. Not that, I can practice. Well, you can practice your belief, but you didn't segregate people. But now, thanks to especially Barack Obama, that's where it's gotten the worst. We definitely became a segregated country. That's just basically, it's like oil and water. It's just like everybody's separated from each other and more miserable than they've ever been before. So I just had to say that. But yeah, read this article. I glanced through it before I came on. I just don't want to mess it up. So I would say check it out. I actually missed that the other day, folks, but I heard that Trump had an, I guess his, what do you call it? Basically him becoming president. It was like, I'll call it an acceptance speech kind of thing. You know, hey, I'm going to be the new president, you know, on January 20th. And he wanted to lay his ideas down, what he wants to do once he takes over. And I heard it was very impressive. So I was going to check it up, but I did not. I'm glancing through this article I said from the National Review, and they do use terminology like racist and stuff, you know, calling basically the people on the right of being sexist pigs and a racist. I mean, it was led through this article. That's how the left thinks of the right. And pretty much what I've, you know, let's see. It was like, it says conservative individuals are basically stereotyped, which we're not allowed to do, but the left is allowed to do so. But they are stereotyped. I should speak for myself because I am a right, what do you call it? A right thinker, you know, a person on the right who is a conservative. But it says, according to this article, how the left thinks about the right. Decades of labeling conservative positions as hateful and labeling conservatives as individuals, myself, an individual as sexist, intolerant, xenophobe, homophobic, racist, and bigoted. That's how they basically, in a lump sum, that's how they think. I'm not using the right words, and I'll hear about it, but I'm just trying to say that's how the left sees us. But right before, and I think even Rush said up until, I think, midnight, it was something like that, he was saying that everybody on the left, including the media that's basically jaded towards the left, were so convinced that Hillary had in the bag, that she was going to win. And all you hear about was this mockery on people that were conservatives, like, oh, when you lose, you're going to be a sore loser. Oh, you know, when you lose, you're going to be crying babies and stuff. But everything that the left, how the left thinks, or the people on the left had mentioned how we're going to react, is exactly the way they're reacting right now. And I mentioned this before because even Rush and Rush actually coined this phrase, calling the millennials who are upset that, you know, Hillary did not win. He calls them snowflakes. And that a lot of them have, like, on college campuses and stuff, have just had meltdowns. That's why he calls them snowflakes, that they got to go into like some type of therapy because they're so upset that Hillary did not win. It's like, well, you don't even like the woman. Most of these people, probably majority of them, were actually people who were for Bernie Sanders, which honestly, I didn't like that man. I probably liked him even less because he was definitely less than Hillary, if that's possible, just because he is a socialist. But how could somebody go from somebody who believes in pure socialism to somebody who basically, as a woman, Hillary Clinton, can't stand women and basically just fed everybody on their side, you know, a pack of lies. You know, now some people can say maybe that's why Trump won, because I'm sure there was a few, but I don't think there was that many, because you wouldn't have this outbreak, or at least maybe it's made to look worse than it really is, of a percentage of people on the left who are just basically protesting, which I heard they are kind of small groups. But even so, people who were originally going to vote for Bernie Sanders right away, just when he loses, they don't question it. Some of them did. I'm not going to say a lot, but some of them did. But other ones just said, well, I guess I'll just vote for Hillary. So I hate to tell you this, but if it was me and I was in those shoes and I believed in the points of view that come from the left, And I was a strong supporter of Bernie Sanders, and my other option was Hillary Clinton. I would probably, honestly, I would either A, not vote, or then I would have, like, just to be a dick, I would have voted for, because some people did this, I would have voted for Trump out of spite, because it's like, listen, hey, my man was, I'm just theoretically speaking, my man is Bernie Sanders. He's a socialist. Hillary Clinton is, in somewhat of the way, some sense of the word, not the way, I'm not using it correctly, I'm going to say that right now, is like some type of capitalist, but for herself. Like, her whole goal is, how can I make myself more rich, and how can I make me and my family even more wealthy than we already are. Like, her point, her whole outlook is on herself. I mean, she is the most self-centered person who, in politics, that ever existed besides her husband. I mean, whoever heard of a first lady, for one thing? I mean, I'm not trying to say this to be, I can't even think of the right word. But whoever heard of a first lady who wants to become president? I've never heard of such a thing. Generally, you know, and I'm not saying that a woman can't run for president, but what was her sense? I mean, she has this thing that she loves all this power. Like, she wanted to become president. Like, she surely is like some type of, in her mind, you know, she felt like she deserved it. I can't even think straight on how to answer this. But somebody who has that much hunger for power, you should be really worried about. That she felt compelled to run for president, and used her husband as a crutch to get there, or as a stepping stone. That to me, it would raise a red flag that would scare me. That she was so hungry for power. The only way she figured she could do it is you marry the right guy who's going to get you into these different office positions, which did help her. And then eventually you want to take total control, like total power. Yeah. That's very scary. Bernie Sanders, like I said, I don't agree with him, but you're literally talking, two different people, they are within their own category of being Democrats. They are completely different. One was a complete socialist, and the other one was just a person hungry for power. Neither one of them were really good choice. I think Trump was for the Republican side, but that's my opinion, though. But, we had some pretty good choices. If it was not Trump, we had, for the Republicans, we had, 17 presidential elects, or people running for being presidential elect. And, none of them, minus maybe, I think, one in particular, which I would not vote for. If that was the choice I had, I would definitely have not voted for him, would be Jeb Bush. Because that man just would have been, you might as well just put your vote for a Democrat, which I probably would have done in that instant. And if that would have happened, that outcome, I'm just saying that. I'm not saying I would have done that, but what I'm trying to say is, voting for Jeb Bush, you might as well just voted for one of the other two on the Democrat side, because he was just as bad as they were as far as opening up the borders and letting illegals legally into the country, amnesty. He would have been probably just as bad as they would have been if they would have, either one of those two on the left would have gotten office. So maybe that makes sense to some. I know it's not going to make sense to everyone, but just trying to, make light of the story that I mentioned that I think you should read. But speaking about this whole thing, it drives me nuts with political correctness. But I saw this the other day, and it was on U.S. and World News. School pulls two books, classic American novels, off the school shelves. Now, One of them, at least, I never read it in high school, but of course I missed out on a lot of high school. But the one I actually had to read in college, and I told my one friend, I read it for film, and what was it? It was a film and, film versus the novel type story, classic movies that were made, classic books that were made into films, and it was a comparison class. I can't remember the exact name of it. So two of these books now, because they were both probably, one was definitely made into a film. The other one I think was too. But these two particular books were pulled off the shelves because they were considered racist. Now, this is part of American history, though. So it says, School Pulls To Kill a Mockingbird, which that was the one I read for college in this comparison class, and Huckleberry Finn over racial slurs. Now, I remember reading those books in college, and the funny thing was, especially when I had to read To Kill a Mockingbird, that book that we read was actually, believe it or not, I'm trying to look at I can't pronounce the name of that school. But that was in a Catholic school. That was in a Catholic college. It was Cabrini that we read that book. So for some reason, as politically correct as, Cabrini College was, they didn't have any problem on you reading that book. They didn't have a problem at all. And some of that stuff I probably even read when I went to Montgomery County Community College as well. So I just find that really appalling and entertaining at the same time. It says 2 classic American novels have been temporarily pulled from bookshelves in it looks like a Mack County public school in Virginia. And it says media outlet reports that earlier this month, a parent filed a complaint about To Kill a Mockingbird and the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn for their use of racial slurs. I think that's just ridiculous. I really do. I mean, these books have been around for how long? Nobody seemed to find had taken any offense to it until all of a sudden, and it's still, I hate to tell you, but it's still while we have Mr. Barack Obama in power that has convinced everyone that they are truly just victimized people. Like, all of these people are just victims. If you are of a different skin color or of a different sex, meaning female, if you're not a male, then you'd be a female. But I'm sure it would even go down to, if they possibly would go down to transgender or sexual preference, which I have a couple comments I want to make about that too. So I don't know. I just don't understand how this is so important in today's society that people are all victimized and should be able to get whatever they want without even making an effort in acting like an adult or taking responsibility for anything. But it seems to be always twisted towards me anyway, so yeah, in some way. Not just me. I'm just saying. I'm using that because it shows about me, so I'm going to mention about me. How's that? So I was just trying to do a real quick check before I go any further, because there's a couple other stories that don't pertain to politics or me complaining about that. Now, here is one, just to show you how this whole millennial age is, it was from, it actually got posted from 2 different people. I think my friend Todd brought it to my attention, but then somebody else pulled the same article, and it was from Channel 12. Was this in Florida? I can't remember, but it says police report says driver in Route 6 crash had previous traffic violations. Really young African Americans, I have to be politically correct, was driving and filming himself, bragging about how he was driving and using his cell phone, taking video, driving at 115 miles an hour, cutting in and out of traffic. It was a young guy. And it looked like he had like a BMW or Mercedes, like a brand new car. It's like, how can you fucking afford that? I'm sorry. Providence, it says RI. Providence RI. Where is that? Oh, Rhode Island State Police. So it was Rhode Island. State police are investigating a Facebook Live video apparently taken by a driver prior to a serious crash on Route 6. Captain John Allen confirms. Yeah, the guy's only 20. According to Allen, state police believe, I can't pronounce this guy's name. Anyway, he was 20, and he was broadcasting the video before he crashed into a garbage truck in Providence Wednesday morning. And he said he was showing him the kid, like they must have salvaged, because he actually broadcasted it. So he was placing it up live on Facebook or something, because I thought I saw that somewhere while he was driving, and he killed himself, totaled the car. Again, I don't know many 20-year-olds can afford a $50,000 car either. The video shows the driver speeding and weaving in and out of traffic, reaching speeds as high as 115 miles an hour before appearing to lose control of the car. It says his camera is in his right hand, videotaping himself as he's driving, and he actually does show the speedometer, how fast he was going, and, pointing the camera different directions on his phone. Has no seatbelt on, and he starts to hit speeds of 90 miles an hour, which increases to 100 miles an hour, and then you see several erratic lane changes where he goes from high-speed lane to a low-speed lane into the breakdown lane, and in and out of traffic, stated Allen, who was the police officer, described in this video. So this guy was driving up to speeds of 115 miles an hour, no seatbelt on, had like I said, appeared to be like a BMW or Mercedes-Benz, brand new, 20-year-old, and he's blasting rap music because you could hear it in the video. I'm not trying to point anything out. I'm just describing what you can see yourself by watching the video. And he's boasting about how he's driving so fast and being goofy, like blasting some really horrendous rap music in the background. And, the guy looked like a clean-cut guy, but he seemed a little bit too big for his britches. And obviously he doesn't have to worry about that anymore because now he's dead. Yeah, and it says it says here about Facebook, state police studying Facebook video after crash. So he was broadcasting this live onto Facebook while he was doing it. So that's how they were able to salvage the video, because obviously they couldn't get it from the car because they have footage of what was left of the car, and it wasn't very much. It was just a scrap heap of metal and plastic all over the place. So I don't know. But the point is, there is no point. No, but the point is, it's these people, this young generation of millennials, believe that they can do whatever they want to do, and no one should stop them, no matter how much they are an endangerment to themselves and other people. It doesn't matter. They are entitled to do whatever they want to do, and they should be given it. Like I told you in that first article I read the caption of, with this woman who is now pissed off that she's losing her benefits. Like, she doesn't feel like it's fair that now nobody's going to be paying for her, once again, for her living situation. Like, she can't afford to pay rent. She doesn't want to get a job. And it's which I've said before. Now, again, it might be a different country by what it seemed like. But what I'm trying to say is she, was screaming, cursing, and hollering on video that it's not fair that now we're not paying for her living situation. Like, it's not her job to get a job. It's our job to make sure she can do whatever she wants whenever she feels like she wants to. So we gotta, but you know what? I don't hear about these people very often. What I will hear about, or where the focus ends up in my stretch of this, my world, is how I'm the one being irresponsible, how I need to take more responsibility. And, the focus is, in my world, is on me from others. But these people seem to get through life for a very long time. Well, that 20-year-old, he doesn't have much of a life, and now he doesn't have any longer. But you don't hear people, I'm sure, I'm just guessing. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm just guessing. But I'm sure you don't hear people say, well, you need to take more responsibility for yourself. You need to get a job or something like that. No. Or you need to give 40% of your paycheck to me, not myself, but to other people, because that's the responsible thing to do. Or you need to spend on elaborate things like live, not buying stuff that you don't need, but you need to live above your means, and you need to buy an expensive home or expensive car or live above your means, which some people, I live day by day. I live each day as an individual day. I don't really care to look in the future, because all that does, there's a way you can make it by, and, live that day to its fullest. And, eventually when the time comes, then when I need to take on some other type of responsibility, I'll cross that path when it comes my way. Now, I'm not going to wait until it's too late to do stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm not going to overwhelm myself to the point that I make myself deeply depressed or drive myself insane, because I've done that in the past, and it's not worth it. So again, I'm just going off, and it's actually 41 minutes, so it might be good because I'll be able to kind of wind down with these other stories. I do try to. I never do, but I do try to keep it within a window of an hour, because I generally lose people's interest after the first 5 minutes. So the best thing to do is to keep my shows, unless I have a guest, then that's completely different. But within that window of an hour. So, and that's coming up pretty quickly. So one thing was, this is going to be more entertainment news, if anything, more or less than anything else. I saw this because I don't watch this show, by the way, but The Walking Dead, I saw this article. I was like, yeah, I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised this didn't happen earlier, because I heard people like, oh, yeah, The Walking Dead is like the best show. Everybody brags about it. It's like, well, I watch it. I find it to be like a glorified soap opera, where it basically is about zombies, and it's not that exciting. I find it kind of boring. That's just me, though. So I've seen this article, by the way. It was from the other day from comicbook.com, which is titled, The Walking Dead Suffers Another Huge Ratings Drop. And this was on 11/30, so it was the end of November. And it goes into how the ratings, they're as bad as it was, like they said. It's been on a couple years. I don't know how long. But it's this present season, I assume, is as low as it was during season 3. I guess it's up to 7 seasons now. So, like I said, I thought the first season was kind of interesting because they kept to the graphic novel, and then they decided to, the writers and directors of that or the people who started that show, after the first couple episodes, they decided they're going to jump ship. And didn't stick with it. They decided, okay, hey, we're not interested. So they had to actually get a whole new crew, not as far as casting, but as far as the people behind the scenes. And, I was like, yeah, and I noticed there was a change, and it was kind of in my opinion, it was kind of boring. It did not keep my interest whatsoever. So, but they were saying, I can see it here. Yeah, it's season 7 from the episode 1 to 6. There was a pretty large drop in audience members. So, I know certain shows, they have their ups and downs, give or take on the show, because honestly, shows like The Big Bang Theory, that's been on for like over 10 years or about 10 years. And I don't think that's changed as far as audience people who watch it. Probably picked up people. And also, even though I stopped watching it, that show seems to be really strong. This other show of Supernatural, that show's been on for 11 years, and it's still going strong. So I just think it was like a show that kind of probably, my guess is, I'm surprised it's been on for 7 seasons, Walking Dead. But I'm surprised it made it that far. I actually kind of lost interest after they decided that the people who came up with the idea of making a film out of The Walking Dead, a TV series out of The Walking Dead, when they left, that show was not that good. And for some reason, it, somehow, mysteriously, it survived now for 7 years. So, unfortunately, I think that's AMC, if I'm correct, and that's going to really hurt them because that's like their number one show, I think, right now. Has been for the last 7 years. That's what's kept them afloat, is that show. There might be some other ones I really don't know, but I'm just saying. This was pretty interesting. There is a Mummy movie teaser out, a new Mummy movie. The last one was with Brandon Fraser, and they're not getting him, but instead they've gotten, according to the trailer, was Tom Cruise, which is kind of interesting because everybody now associates the Mummy, the movies, the Mummy, the new ones, not the old ones, not the classic ones, with Brandon Fraser, which, he did make 3 of them, I guess. He was in 3 of them, and they were pretty popular, I thought. I liked them. Now, it'd be interesting why they've decided to pick Tom Cruise. I mentioned to my mother, and her face kind of like went, like it dropped, and then it just like gave that, Tom Cruise? Like she wasn't even excited to see him in there. So, I don't know. That might be a bad choice. Tom Cruise, has made a name for himself when he was younger, and obviously in these, kind of spy detective movies or whatever he does. I forget what they're called, but now seeing him as in a Mummy movie is kind of weird. I'm going to double check, make sure I got that right. So I get a lot wrong. I know. Still don't know why they picked him. Yeah, okay, here we go. The Mummy cast Tom Cruise, Sophia Bolenta, Annabelle Wallace, which I think I've seen her before. But why Tom Cruise? Russell Crowe and Jake Johnson are in the new Mummy movie. It says release date June 9th, 2017. So it'll be coming out like this summer. I don't know what they were thinking with him. Not that it's important. These are just movies, I realize. Hey, I missed one of my stories. It was a Norristown patch story because that's where I live. 2 victims shot while sitting in a car in Norristown on Friday night. It was December 3rd. It says in Norristown, PA, a man and woman were shot while sitting inside their car on Halls Avenue on Friday night. Norristown police had mentioned the incident occurred around 5:10 p.m., so that was in the afternoon or evening, on the 100 block of Halls, according to police. The victims were a 33-year-old woman and a 25-year-old male, authorities said. Both were taken to the hospital immediately, where they remain in stable condition as of Saturday, which was yesterday. The motive for the shooting remains unclear. There has been no arrest, and an investigation is underway. So there you go. And I'll probably make it actually a good 1-hour show tonight for once. Nothing too long. There was a couple things. Actually, a friend by recommendation, I think, from the past, and I bought so much stuff, folks, over the Black Friday, Thanksgiving Day, which is pre-Black Friday, which is actually better deals. And then into Cyber Monday, I bought stuff last minute that I never thought I was going to buy, but it was like, well, this is a really good deal. And I got caught up in the whole hype of even Cyber Monday at the last second, literally the last second. It was like going on midnight at work, and there was this deal on a 4K camera that was marked down half price, JVC camcorder, which I ended up buying. It was like, it said retail for $1,800, on sale for $900. It was like, I looked at it, it was like, yeah, this, and it was from a legit place because my friend Matt bought stuff from them before for not audio. He bought audio equipment. I bought video equipment, and it was like, you know what? I wouldn't mind having that. It's just a matter of putting it to use. So I did buy what I needed. Like, it takes flash cards instead of tapes because I have a high-definition camcorder that actually uses digital tape, and it does do really good video. It takes really excellent video. It's just, it's a pain in the neck to get video all the time, like videotapes. They're basically like pretty much like DAT tapes, and they're getting harder and harder to find, and they're getting more expensive. So, but to have a 4K camera wouldn't be such a bad thing. Even though, honestly, you're one step ahead of the game because 4K hasn't taken off yet. Even though there's a lot of 4K sets, believe it or not, they're still pretty much almost 4K ready. So I just discovered that when I bought a 4K movie, and it came up and said, even though my TV claims to be a 4K TV set, I have a Xbox One S, which supports 4K movies, and I have cables to support 4K. The TV set, they said, is not 4K compatible, even though it said it is. So it's 4K ready or broadcast in 4K, but it can't support playing 4K films. So it's, the whole thing is a little confusing, but that's the bottom line. It actually still looks good no matter what. So I got that camera. I am hoping I'll be able to use it. I will put it to use somehow. I'm not quite sure how yet, but eventually, I'll find something, especially during the summertime, or give me, something to fool around with, work with. And some of the reviews actually on the camera I got were decent because it's actually considered a very low-end professional camera, believe it or not. This JVC I got. I got to remember the numbers still. I don't know if I'll be able to find them. If I can, I'll mention it in case anybody else is interested. I mean, you can find a camera at decent prices. JVC GY/HM170U is the model I have. And even on Amazon, that camera is like $1,300, and I got it for like $850. So it was a good deal. It's brand spanking new. It was not touched by anybody besides the person who, people who, or machinery that put the thing together. So it's definitely, and it's considered, it says right here, JVC, and that model number, Ultra 4K HD 4K cam, professional camcorder. So it is a professional camera. It's not a consumer grade. It's considered professional, but it's like very low grade professional one. It's not high grade. Now the one I got, which came with the mic set and everything, that's like more $1,400-$1,500, even at a discounted price, and I got it for $850. So again, it was brand new. Do I necessarily need it? Well, that's a good question actually, because yeah, I don't know. God, I liked the, somebody actually got talking about cameras, but it was from a Spanish link I have. Somebody actually claims they shot the Loch Ness monster, but it's all in Spanish, I think, or whatever. I still posted the article because it seems like it would be a good article. But yeah, it's something I would hope that I can find some use for, even if it's just doing what I've been doing for years. Now, the past 2 years, I haven't shot any video. But when I was shooting video, it was for hobby use mainly. So if I can keep it even in the realm of using it for what I enjoy doing, as a hobby, the camera would be kind of like, it's not that expensive, even though you spend $850, Walter. Yeah, that is, it's not, quote unquote, it's not chump change, but at the same time, it's actually it's a very good deal for a professional camcorder. So, I did that, by the way. And another thing, it was like, when I never thought I'd speak this highly about SSD drives, but I've been having problems with this hard drive I have. Now I'm just going to use it as a storage one. I got a high quality, high speed, Seagate hard drive, 2 terabyte. It's basically meant for games and stuff where you need that speed to load a game or something. But you can use it as a regular one too. I don't remember the name of it. Seagate. Let's see if I can find it this way. Try to put in for high-speed drive. Actually, I can just look under Micro Center because that's where I bought it from and pull it up. I only paid like $100 when I got it, and it was fast, but it's no comparison to an SSD drive, which I thought that was all hype. I really did think that SSD drives are not much difference if you buy a good regular conventional hard drive that is running 7,200 RPMs, blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't have any problems. Well, actually, I ran into problems where this particular drive I bought would lock up quite frequently, this conventional hard drive. So I finally got to the point, it's like, I'm going to break down and actually, I'm trying to look for things I bought. It's all recent stuff. Order history. Generally, you can do that. It's not showing up right now. Order history. Here we go. From Micro Center. Yeah, so let's see. Christmas gifts. But this hard drive I got, I'm trying to even figure out how long ago I got it. And that would help. I don't think it was that long ago. It's not working right. Start date. I'm trying to get this. This should work. If I can find the order. Oh, here we go. It was called a Seagate Fire CUDA 2 terabyte 7200 RPM gaming hard drive, or HDD. I got it at Micro Center. It was like $100. It's supposed to be very stable, very fast. Next best thing, because it's a, what do you call it? It's not only just a fast hard drive, but it's a hybrid drive. And it's the highest speed conventional hard drive you're going to get from Seagate or any other company. They don't make any bigger than 2 terabytes. That's the most you're going to be able to get if I didn't mention that. So I got it, and I was like, the reviews that I could find on the hard drive were really good. Otherwise, you didn't see any. And there was only a few handful of articles on this particular hard drive. It was like, well, it's much cheaper than buying an SSD drive of any decent size, because SSD drives are very expensive. So I got this a while back. I forgot to check the date, though. And I had an issue where it happened quite often, where it would just plain lock up for no reason at all. The drive would just lock up. So on the Seagate. And I never had, honestly, any serious problems with Seagate before until now with this one particular drive. And I ordered it, or I picked it up on 9/25, so September 25th. So it was like a month or so ago. And it got to the point, like, just turn it on, I'd have to shut it down, hard shut down the hard drive, the computer, because the hard drive was, like, locked up. It wasn't frozen, but what I was using, whatever program it was locked on that program. It was, like, not moving. So I'd have to, and that's not healthy to keep on pulling the plug on your computer. But that's what I end up, theoretically doing, and just rebooting it with major problems. So anyway, yeah, it got to the point. I was like, you know what, I might break down. I went to this place called Other World Computing. What is that? OWC. Yeah, OWC. Other World Computing. I'm going to pull it up right now. And I looked at, because Other World Computing, actually, their specialty is, believe it or not, is a lot of Mac stuff. If you want stuff that is rock solid, you're not going to cause any issues, you buy from Other World Computing, or just OWC is what they basically call themselves. Same thing. And, yeah, I did that. Even see if I can find a slip for that. And I was like, I think the highest OWC mix in solid-state drives are pretty much 1 terabyte. Like, you can get bigger. Let's see if I can find it. Trying to put in for SSD. Maybe I can just pull it right up. So, and I looked at different ones. There's different companies that make SSD drives. The one I bought in particular, I hope they dropped the price. No, they didn't. But, yeah, Other World Computing had a 1 terabyte. I think it's the biggest you can get. And I think it was like $350, I think. I'm trying to look for it now because I can't remember the price. So I'm doing a quick look for my machine, which is a 2010. Okay, yeah, the biggest you can get that they offer is a 1 terabyte. It was $354. So that was pretty steep. And then you got to buy a mount. You don't have to, but it's actually a very good idea. Well, actually, you do have to buy it. It's sold separately, though. Is a mount for the hard drive, because it's a laptop hard drive. The size of it is. So I got a 1 terabyte for $354.75. $355. The quarter's not going to make much of a difference. And then you can buy, you buy a kit. The hard drive in both is, I'm looking at it now, the mount bracket included is $354.75. That's what I bought. Now you can just buy the 1 terabyte hard drive if you want it for your laptop or something, and that will save you about $20. No more, no less, but about $20. I know it doesn't make any sense. Well, it says 14 buying it individually. But either way, I bought it and was like, okay, well, this is the only one I could find that they gave no huff about, like no problem. Okay, this will, hey, not only will this work in your system, your Mac or your computer. You don't have to buy these for a Mac. If you have a computer, the OWC brand, which specifies that their stuff is made for mainly, so they will 100% have no problems with a Mac, no issues. That's why you pay more. You can put these in PCs. The hardware, what do you call it? Not graphics card, hard drives or memory. But you never had a problem. So I try to stick, because even my memory, I have like 32 gigs of memory right now. I bought that from OWC when I first put this latest Mac Pro I have. And it always seemed pretty good, but it did seem that great. Sorry, I'm yawning. So, I figured, you know what? I've been working on some overtime just to make sure I could get things done I wanted to get done or buy that I normally can't afford to buy. So this was one of the things I got. And it was this SSD drive, solid state drive from OWC. Again, it was It was $355, rounded off. Put it in, and it was amazing how they weren't kidding how much faster it is. It's like really fast, in fact. I mean, I was shocked. So, Yeah, even the boot up is incredibly faster than what I'm used to. Like I can, it might have to do a system check on your hardware, which might take a little longer. But once it gets into the prompt screen for boot up on the Mac, compared to the hard drive I got from Seagate, it's a matter of like less than 2 seconds or 5 seconds. Otherwise, it would be like a minute, even with the fastest hard drive that's a conventional hard drive that's, a hybrid. It's nothing compared to a solid-state drive. So that being said, it was definitely worth it. It was definitely worth it for that. And I've seen people write these articles. Like one guy wrote it, like in his machine, he quote unquote put it breathes new life into an old machine, and it was like, yeah, that's a bunch of BS. But it really does. It really does. That solid state drive is incredible. Especially the one that if you want to get one, you can save maybe $50 or so. But then you got to take the chance that there could be some issues. The reason I went and I paid the extra $50 for the one I got, because there was literally zero issues from many, many people who have bought, the same drive that I have now in my system, my main machine, that, they don't have any problems. And that was enough for me to say, okay, hey, you got me convinced. I want something that is not, going to be like work for a little bit. If I want to pay some money to get something done, I want it done right and done that I don't have to go back later on and fix my some issues with the computer. So I figured, this is already, believe it or not, I think this is already faster. I left a message with a friend, but this machine, I feel, is faster just by putting that solid state drive in, and with everything else I have in there, is just as fast. I would say even faster, or about the same, who knows, as, as fast as their, like, Apple's, I'm sorry for that delay in thinking, just as fast as the new Apple Macs, that once you have them set up and you got to basically put everything on for expansion wise, you got to put it on as external connections, which would cost, once it's all said and done, you basically get it the way you want it, will cost you on the new machine about $10,000. And the upgrades I put on my computer that I have now, I would have to say is less than that by a landslide. Like, it's not even a quarter of what it would have cost me to buy a brand new Mac and then have everything literally all over the place. Like, if I want extra hard drive space, I'd probably have to get an external hard drive. Otherwise, you have to use like these flash sticks to put in the machine. The memory's expensive. If you want some type of ROM drive or something, you're looking at basically external connectors and everything just laying all over the place. I mean, it's a mess, the new one, the trash bin one. So all my stuff is nice and tidy, and it fits in the machine within the case, so I don't have things all over the place, and at a fraction of the cost too. And that's one other thing is I've noticed with the new drive, the SSD drive, that most of your heat some of your heat is definitely coming from the hard drive. So you don't have anything spinning. So that's another thing. I've noticed this machine already has run much cooler by just changing. I have other conventional hard drives, but those drives aren't doing anything unless I ask. I access them. they're in the machine, but they're not doing anything besides just sitting in the machine doing nothing. So that is another thing that is cool, that, no puns intended, that that alone, is another plus. Now, one thing I did do just to make this even better yet with this machine, which is, it's not a necessary thing, but it was something I wanted to do just to make this the most, beyond the most powerful machine that I'll have. And what I did was, there's a graphics card that was being sold on eBay, and it was like from a company called NVIDIA, where that's the only place, that's where I got my last graphics card, where I'm trying to think, these cards, NVIDIA cards are, I'm trying to think, I'm drawing a blank, because see, the problem is that was an issue, but there's enough people still running these older Macs. Like, they stopped making what's called the cheese grater Mac back in 2012, I think was the last one that rolled out. And then they went to these ones that we call the trash bin ones. Well, the cheese grater ones are upgradable. The other ones are not. And most companies, there was a few that were out there that were PC companies that made parts, or at least graphics cards, for the Mac Pro. Well, there is still some out there, people that take cards, they're meant for basically for a PC, but convert them that they will work, flawlessly on a Mac, which they do, because I have one right now in my system. Let's see what it is. Get the precise name, not that people really care. The graphics card I have in my system right now is called NVIDIA GeForce GTX 770 with 2 gigs of RAM. Now, that card I've ran for the last couple years, and it hasn't had any problems. Actually, it makes the system run very smooth. But NVIDIA did put out a card called the Titan X, and those cards are like extremely, extremely high-end. In fact, they are so high-end that they are very expensive normally. And the newest Titans graphics cards, believe it or not, go for like $1,800, $2,000. So they're not cheap cards, bottom line. They're actually rather expensive. So anyway, somebody on eBay actually got a bunch of these Titan X cards for from NVIDIA, and basically convert them to work on the Mac Pro that I have. And but it's a brand new card. It's like the card was only released a couple months ago. And the thing is, it's like, the reason the price is so high, because not only is it it's a high-end card. It's like a professional card. It's not meant, it's a consumer card in the sense of, okay, you're not doing CAD-G work or something like that, or CAD work, because they do have graphics cards that are not designed for anything except doing any type of CAD work. I think that's what it's called, CAD work. So those are just as expensive. They're like a couple $1,000s as well, but they're not meant to do anything on your desktop more or less than just doing, again, like I said, like 3D CAD work. So, but that's all they are designed to do. Now, this Titan X graphics card, though, that's different. That card is meant for desktop use, video game playing, and stuff like that. It's meant for more than just doing CAD work. But the newer ones, the newer graphics cards, are, again, as expensive as the ones that NVIDIA has made for years for CAD work. But, the thing is, what makes them different is because they are like the cream of the crop. That's like buying. It's the same way like when you buy a high end, what do you call it, Intel chip, processor chip. Well, the ones that are like the cream of the crop chips, those cost 4 or 5 times more money than when you get like the cheaper processor chips. So basically, in layman's terms, I guess, or trying to explain myself, when you buy like a Titan X graphics chip from NVIDIA, the reason you're paying so much more money is because those chips are like the ones that are like flawless. And because they are flawless chips, they run, they're meant to be they're designed to be a higher performance chip. And then instead of having 2 gigs of RAM, this particular one has 12 gigs of RAM on the graphics card. And that's in addition that it's a high-end graphics chip. So it's all the way around. That's why it's so expensive. So I found one online for like $850, which is a lot of money, but I was like, wow, that sounds like a pretty good deal because I know what these cards go for. I just didn't know how much. So I did look it up, and if you want to buy the same exact card, that's not been converted to work on my Mac, you can buy that same card for about $2 or $3 grand, the exact same card. But again, these cards are the reason they're so expensive is because these are designed that these cards don't have any problems. They're designed to be high-end cards. Bottom line, why would I spend that kind of money? Well, that is going to put, my machine already is far beyond for its age. It's a 2010, actually. 2010 machine is far ahead of anything that you will buy in the PC world. Putting that SSD drive has actually put it even further ahead. Putting this graphics card is like, I'll have this until like 2050 if I don't get tired of the machine. This thing will still be just as powerful and just as fast, be able to run anything that is thrown out in the world will be able to run on this machine without a hitch. In fact, like with this new graphics card, if you really wish to, it will support 4K, and even though it's not out yet, it actually will support 5K, which is not even remotely close to being out for at least another year or two, I would guess. So, so that's another thing too. So, I mean, I basically want to be more than just 1 or 2 steps ahead. I want to be so far ahead of what's coming my way that I don't have to worry about it. And another thing is, it's still it was much cheaper than me starting from scratch and building a whole new system. So that part I really liked. Now another thing is to do the transfer from my old hard drive to the new SSD drive, which it was all encased in the same machine, had taken no more than about 30 minutes from, start to finish of putting on, putting on the OS and then basically transferring all the files over, which some of them were pretty big because one was for Final Cut. Programs like that aren't very small, but all that stuff, was perfectly transferred, like as though my old hard drive, the new hard drive was basically the old hard drive as far as where it's seeing things. So you don't have to put in, registration numbers again or anything. That's all done for you, because it's a perfect transfer without any issues. So, but in the past, that could have taken a couple hours for all that work. But this time it did not, which I was actually really pleased. Now, if they weren't that expensive, if these drives weren't that expensive, it's cheaper than it used to be. But if they were cheaper yet, I wouldn't even think twice on getting actually a hard drive like that, an SSD drive. Also, if it was a little bit cheaper, I would definitely not think twice on getting one for my what do you call it, for my laptop, my Apple laptop. Not all of them, but at least that one Apple laptop, the one I use now for recording shows and stuff. Because, I was honestly, I was really surprised on how well this stuff actually works. So there's that. And so bottom line is I tell anybody, it's worth investing some money into stuff like that. I didn't believe it at first. I thought, like, hey, you can buy a drive. I've heard people say for the longest time, oh yeah, you want to buy an SSD drive and at least put everything else, as far as regular drives, you put all your storage on, if you want to back things up, then you use regular drives. Like, no, you can get regular drives, but that are just as fast. You cannot. So I'm actually way over. I'm sorry. It's actually an hour and 20 minutes of me just talking about nothing. Well, that's what my show's about, isn't it? But I did want to mention something. Going back to the political correctness thing, there was one other thing that kind of just really dug in my groin. And it was funny because there was one show I was bragging about because I really did like it at first. And it got on my nerves. Now I'm at the point I don't think I'll be watching it anytime soon again, at least for now. I'll probably, because I paid for a season pass for the second season of Supergirl. Because the first season, they try to be a little politically correct, and it was like I kind of tolerated it. Like Supergirl, the show has Jimmy Olsen in there, and they made Jimmy Olsen really good actor, African-American to be politically correct. Really good actor, though. He was on this show, I think, called True Blood. But he's a husky guy. Like, he's built. He's like he's really tall and he's muscular, sort of. So Jimmy Olsen's supposed to be a dorky white guy that, basically is a buffoon. So that was problem number one I had. But by season 2, it's gotten worse, where Jimmy Olsen's pissed off, the one on Supergirl, that he's pissed off that he doesn't have any superpowers. So he now is going to be helped on becoming a superhero who has no powers. And he's black, which the original Jimmy Olsen was Caucasian. And never, ever complained about not having any superpowers. So, the whole thing has just become... That's just like one little thing, but the other thing was they were making some Trump bashing during election time. These shows are pre-recorded, but they had it made sure they put it on right before elections, where Linda Carter played the President of the United States, which is a woman, and then she makes a comment, or at least Supergirl does, and says, well, thank God that other guy, I don't even know why he was running, which was, you would have to watch it, but the way it was scripted was insinuating that, or who they were talking about was Donald Trump. Or, an alter ego of Donald Trump, because, it's Supergirl, so it's a fictional storyline. And she was saying, yeah, I don't know who would ever want to vote for that other guy. And it was supposed to be a dig towards, oh, well, Donald Trump's an idiot. You don't want to vote for him. One of those kind of things. So that that definitely bothered me. But then it had to go where they had a Hispanic girl who they introduced to show a character, a Hispanic girl, who is a out-of-the-closet lesbian. So I was like, okay, now you're being even more politically correct. And they also have on this show two Martians who disguise themselves as humans, and both Martians who disguise themselves as humans disguise themselves as African Americans. I'm not even kidding. So that has to be politically correct. So somebody from another planet who disguised themselves as human beings, who are some sort of minority from or an alien, literally from another planet, more than just another country, have to disguise themselves, both of them, as African Americans of all things. So, and that kind of gets in my grind, but it gets not well. So I won't hear Matt say I'm not using it correctly. It digs on my it digs on my side, or whatever you want to say. It gets even better yet. This girl, or this Hispanic girl, she's a detective too. Who, that's another thing. You gotta make sure those women have. There's no harm in that. If it's influencing a woman to think above, like, well, they can do more than just what they're, convinced that their sole purpose in life is just to get married and have kids. If it's something that encourages women to do more, then I'm fine with that. But I have a problem when they push political correctness down your throat sevenfold. Then I definitely have an issue with that, and I have a really big issue with that. So this lesbian that's on the show, who's Hispanic, has now convinced Supergirl's sister, Earth sister. If you ever watch the show, it won't make any sense unless you kind of have an idea what the show premise, or what the premise of the show is with the characters. But Supergirl is, earthbound, whatever, and she has an Earth family, and she has an Earth sister. And she has a sister now who really never dated, and now through this lesbian woman on the show has discovered that maybe the reason she hasn't had any boyfriends is because she herself is a lesbian. So there you go. You got African American Martians who disguise themselves as African Americans, because actually they're green man and woman from Mars. And you have the lesbian sister, who is finally figuring out she's a lesbian. She's discovered that. And what else? That we have in this universe a woman president, which I have no problem with, but who is against this other opponent, or the person who would have been Donald Trump, kind of thing. Amongst other things, the show is just... and it was funny, I talked to some guy at work who he's into science fiction, horror, and video games, almost pretty much like me. And he basically bluntly put out, he's like, he likes these superhero shows. And I said, yeah, I told him, I said, I didn't know he was watching it at all, but I said, yeah, I started watching Supergirl for the first season. I said, I lost interest in it. And he says, yeah, I lost interest in it, this guy at work, because he said it's too politically correct. And this guy's like Hispanic, I think. He looks like he may be Hispanic himself. And even he said that it's gotten so ridiculous with this show. Like he's tired of watching it. It tries so hard to be politically correct. I mean, an African American Jimmy Olsen. It just goes on forever. It goes on forever with really just shoving down your throat. And this show is like the worst. But there's other shows, and these are shows that are just like basically are dictated by the left. Even in entertainment, they got their, they've had their hands in there for years, but not to this extent. I mean, this is just crazy. So I did want to mention that. I didn't expect to be talking for this long about this stuff. But I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, and I totally forgot about it, so I apologize. Not that it's important. But I remember I was discussing this with another friend the other day. But, yeah, there's this... I had the other day, I had a I had to train some girl on something that I needed help with because at my job I have certain types of job restrictions where I'm not allowed to do certain things. So the other day, there was this thing I couldn't do, a piece of equipment that needed to be cleaned. I needed help with, and I said, listen, hey, and we got where I work now, where the areas I work in now have cameras in there, and the fact that there's cameras in there, and an area I had to clean, I didn't want to take the chance of doing something I'm not supposed to do and end up possibly getting in trouble, even fired for it. So right away I was like, okay, I need somebody to help me, assist me on certain things I have to get done. And, because it's not worth losing my job over. And, I got assistance. And it was a young girl. She just started there. She's not that old. She, as far as time seniority at our job, she's been there for about a year. And I was just trying to go over. It's called because my one friend Todd, he calls it the same thing. So it's called Standard Operating Procedure. It's what you have to read over for tasks and jobs that you have to do. Standard Operating Procedure, or SOP. And I was trying to go over it with this girl, and I said I was trying to actually get rid of her at one point. It's like, hey, if you don't want to stick around, because what I'm teaching you right now, you're not going to even need to know. It's not that important for you to know, but I just need your assistance for one thing. If you want to, you can do your own thing. I don't care. I won't say anything, and you can go to people who you will be working with and learn from them. And she said, no, I want to stick with you. And it's like, are you sure? Because I try to be as nice and as general as possible, basically just saying, what, I only need you for one thing, and if you want to, just get lost, bottom line. But I didn't want to say it that way. I want to come off to be a prick. So I gave her, the choice of like, hey, I'm giving you this open door. You can leave right now once you assist me with one thing I can't do. Very simple procedure. It's not going to, didn't kill her. It just I couldn't do it. I'm not allowed to. So, I go through and I show her around like these suites that we work in, and I showed her what I was doing, and I went over, can you find this SOP? Because I'm not quite sure where it is on the computers. We use actually iPads to look up our paperwork anymore because and it was like, try to keep it simple. And I told her from like the very first second when I was told I had to work with this girl, which I tried to look for somebody else to help me. I said, listen, I'm in here. I just need to get this one job done. I can't do it on my own. I need your assistance, and I'm going home. I'm not going to stay all night. I'm not here on how to meet people, make friends, and influence whatever. I'm just here to do a job, get a couple hours of overtime, get this job done as quickly as possible so I can go home, do whatever I want to do, masturbate, sleep, watch a movie, screw around, whatever. I'm not here to be your best friend. And I made it I thought, because my one friend, Matt, you're saying that I don't make things clear. I made this very clear. I made it very clear. Because she kept on asking me, even after I told her, I said, listen, I'm going home after this. I'm not sticking around. Oh, you're not sticking around for 8 hours? Nope. I'm going to stay here for no more than the length of time it takes to do this one job, this procedure, which I guessed right on the money was about 4 hours, and that's exactly what it had taken. So why am I bringing all this stuff up? And I'm going to end the show because it's actually over an hour and a half. Was my whole purpose of this was to have her assist me, and I can go home and, maybe she can help me find stuff I can't find myself, which is like an SOP. I already know what I need to do, my job. But I wanted to double check and pull up this SOP. And I didn't ask her about her sexual preference or if she was in a relationship. I didn't care about any of that stuff. All I cared about was getting in, getting out, and going home, because it was past my bedtime, so to speak. I'm using that in a figurative way. I'm not using that as that's what I do when I go home. No, I'm just using that figuratively speaking. So right away out of nowhere, when I'm like talking about SOP work and trying to show her around the ropes about what her job may entail, even though it's different from mine, out of clear blue sky, she just says, well, she's been here for less than a year. Well, I have a boyfriend, and I want you to know that. And I met my boyfriend at my job, which is the job I work at. And it was like, okay, so you're talking about strictly business stuff, and out of somewhere she had to make sure to lay down the ground of mentioning she had a boyfriend. It was like, well, this is like, I don't want to use the word inappropriate, but it was like unexpected, to say the least. So I said this to one friend, and he said, like, you seem like I take things too seriously, or I'm probably maybe taken it out of context. But then he said, yeah, I did remember one situation where some girl actually thought I was hitting on her, which I wasn't. I actually had no interest in her in this one way. This was years ago. So I mentioned this to another friend, my friend Todd. I said, yeah, so-and-so basically, he did agree with me, but at the same time, he was thinking, he had some doubts in his mind on what I was saying to him. Like, it had to be something I, created this idea in her head that I was trying to hit on her. And it was like, that was the furthest thing. When you tell somebody repeatedly, listen, I want to go home, I'm very tired. I kept on telling her, I'm very tired. I just want to go home. I'm falling asleep. I mean, what else do I need to say? That's not even being indirect or just beating around the bush. That's just being direct. It's like, listen, I want to get this done. I want to go home. I'm going to teach you. I am tired. I'm like very tired. This is past my work schedule. I don't like working a lot of overtime. I've been doing it lately to get certain things I wanted to buy, but I have no interest in anything else besides getting done what I need to do and going home. Very straightforward. So out of that, she came up with this conclusion that I was hitting on her. And in doing so, she had to make it very clear that she had a boyfriend. And I hear this from every female that I start talking to on Simple Talk, that they either have a boyfriend, they're married, or something else. And honestly, it just gets really annoying that like their whole life is on having a significant other. Like most people, since I was like younger, my objective is, trying to, establish myself in some way. I was forced to at the age of 12 to think this way. So it's very irritating, to say the least, when you're supposed to be a professional. And I categorize people like this young lady in the same, these people in the same mind frame as these people that we call the millennials, when they don't get their way, how they act like crybabies. Like they act like they want to act like, or they act like, or they think that they are adults, but they don't act like adults. To me, that's not being an adult. Like trying to say, well, this guy's hitting on me, and I don't like it, so I'm going to tell him I have a boyfriend, so her leave me alone. It's like, I'm not asking you out. I'm just telling you, you need to help me on something, and then I want to go home. That's straightforward. There's no beating around the bush. There's no need for that. So why am I bringing all this up? Well, reason was because then my friend Todd called me today, and he said he experienced the same thing at his job, where he works at a place called, was it Office Max or Staples? I think it's Staples now. And he said some woman, attractive lady, ordered some table, a desk, from his job, and he said that whoever put the order in for the wrong desk. And he said that he was like telling the lady, "I'm so sorry. I apologize if we, got the wrong table or desk for you," and blah, blah, blah. And she never mentioned anything about anything else besides this transaction being wrong and getting it fixed. And he was cool with that. But then all of a sudden, he, out of the clear blue sky, said it had nothing to do. It wasn't even relevant to what he was talking about. He says, "I know what you're going through, Walter, or what you're talking about. I experienced the same thing myself today at his job." That's why I mentioned it. Where he mentions this woman, "Well, are you interested in an extended warranty on this desk you're purchasing?" So right away, this was he said at the register at his job today. Right away, she changes it into an assumption by him asking, which makes no sense, but I do believe him. And he said, the way he said it's the same thing you talk about when you mention something that's has nothing to do with asking a woman out, and they change it into that they think you're hitting on them. But she said right away, "Well, my fiance can come back to the store if we need the extended warranty." She had to make sure that he knew, my friend, that she was taken. She was not available. From asking for an extended warranty, she perceived it as being a sexual pickup. And as stupid as that may sound, or that I'm not interpreting what he said right, he said exactly what I am saying. And he said, "Yeah, I just had a nice conversation." He said, "Don't get me wrong. The woman was very attractive. Older woman was very attractive. She was buying a desk and never brought up about a relationship until something cued her off that he might be hitting on her. And then right away, she had to make sure he knew that she was taken." And I get this all the time. I can, unless the woman is very mature and very professional, you never hear that in a conversation where a woman needs to address the issue. "Hey, listen, I'm taken for her, so don't bother with me." And it's amazing because now we have, people at my job that, higher ups that are professionals, and that never comes up in conversation where, "Oh, well, my boyfriend, oh, my husband," it just is very, I hate to tell you, that's like something you do when you're a teenager or in preschool, when you got to prove that you find your own persona or your own personality from being in a relationship. Like, you're nobody without having somebody else in your life. So again, you see that stuff with little kids and teenagers, not with grown adults. But when you do see it, I just find it very irritating. And it made me feel better, though, when the one friend, my friend Todd, called today and said that he for the first time, he actually experienced exactly what I'm talking about. And it was like, okay, so I'm not alone on this issue. I'm not just, I'm not just saying this stuff that I'm just imagining this stuff. Like, this is a figment of my imagination that I feel that, everybody is ganging up against me or whatever, which I never said that. Just because I talk about isolated issues, I've never insinuated that. I may seem like I'm saying that, but I really don't mean that. I'm not that dumb. All I'm saying, though, there is enough people out there, and, in this particular situation that I'm talking about, or other situations that I've talked about in the past, generally do pertain to women thinking that you are trying to make a pass at them, even when you're not. I mean, I said one time, I tried to clarify it with a friend, where it was a friend that I haven't seen in years, my one friend, Linda Young, and all I said to her is, "Hey, Linda, how are you doing?" And right away, she pulls up this fake diamond ring that looks ridiculous, which she had mentioned to me it was a fake diamond ring, because it looked fake. It looked like a toy. And the first thing that came out of her mouth is, by me saying, "Hello, how are you doing?" Because I haven't seen her in years at this one time, I'm engaged. So automatically what came through her head was, you're hitting on me. And the irony is, years before that, she was always hitting on me, trying to persuade me to go out with her. So it's an irony, and I said this to a friend, that when a woman rejects you, it's fine, but because I've had this happen to me at least twice, actually 3 times, that if a woman, where I rejected the woman or a female, and they get all bent out of shape, they get like really almost like borderline hostile, and actually do become hostile when they don't get what they want to hear. But when it's with them doing it to you, then all of a sudden, hey, there's no problem with that. Hey, what's your problem? You need to kind of toughen it up. So yeah, there's a double standard there. There's a big double standard. And but I'm not supposed to complain about it when it's happening to me. But heaven forbid if I would tell a girl, hey, I'm not interested, or that I'm not interested, God, I'll get just as much ridicule towards me from whoever. I'm not going to name any names, or I can't actually think of any either. But that hey, why are you being such a dick to that girl? There's a difference there. So, I don't know. I don't understand that. I just don't understand that. Anyway, I'm just been babbled on for like the last 46-7 minutes, so I apologize, folks. But hopefully you can stand a little bit what I've talked about tonight, and hopefully you find some entertainment. And again, I'll be a little bit better and less, hopefully a little bit less complaining, minus I'll be complaining about shoppers when I'm off, if I can get off her in the next 2 weeks for the rest of the year, which is only 2 weeks after that. But other than that, folks, thank you for listening to me if you do, and I appreciate it if you do. But if you don't, or don't wish to listen to me, then that's no, I can't do anything about that. Actually, I did think of one last thing before I go. It was kind of funny. I started mentioning about the show, and I didn't finish my thought. It's nothing new with me. My one friend Matt used to always talk about of many shows, about the show called Tales of the Dark Side, and it is actually really good. It's kind of like a low-budget bit of campiness to it, but there's actually some really good episodes, and one kind of reminded me of myself. And the one that kind of reminded me of myself a little bit was one I actually saw years ago, or maybe not even that long ago. It's an old show from the 80s. And it had Jerry, who is it? Jerry Stiller. What is it? Ben Stiller. Jerry Stiller on this particular episode where he plays a shock jock. And at first, it was definitely before Rush Limbaugh, because Rush Limbaugh actually came on, excuse me, in the late 80s, and this was like 85. So this was like 4 years before even Limbaugh decided to have his own radio show. So it was probably more geared towards, my guess, it was geared more towards Howard Stern. Well, the reason I mention it, it reminds me, or kind of reflected upon me on this particular episode, is because this guy is just like a real a-hole, miserable, and just angry. Like he is this guy that Jerry Stiller plays is a true misanthrope on the radio. Like he goes in and just tells people that, you need to kind of wise up. He's being an a-hole to everyone on his radio show that he had for years. So the climax of this show was, you find out though that this guy ends up, they do a foreshadow in the beginning where this guy is like coming to work, Jerry Stiller, And he says, yeah, there was some dead guy laying behind my car today, and he came in a really bad mood. This dead guy came in. I came in, he was sitting in my car, some dead, probably drunken guy behind the wheel. And he was complaining about that. Then he's complaining about everybody else, and then he was complaining to callers, like saying that they're stupid, they're idiots, they're dumb, belittling everyone that calls in. And you find out that at the end of the episode, which I didn't dawn on me even at first after I watched it, even though I saw it before because I forgot about it, that the dead guy behind the steering column was actually Ben Stiller himself, the character Ben Stiller played. So, yeah, that's the thing, though. So the bottom line was, and then he gets thanked by Satan. You only hear the voice of somebody playing Satan, and it was called Devil's Advocate. How do you say that? Devil's Advocate. How do you say that? Bottom line is, he was doing. I know what. When I think of devil's, even though I can't pronounce it correctly, the devil's advocate is it's like when you take the other side of an issue. That's what I was thinking it was going to be about. No, he was actually basically the devil or Satan at the very end of the episode, his voice at least, was thanking this shock jock for doing such a great job, on above by getting so many people hating him and actually, turning people into angry people, turning people against, I guess, people from him being just such an a-hole towards people calling in, like callers that were asking for sympathy. He was being a total, dick to them. So the devil or Satan at the very end says, thank you for such a great job of being such an a-hole to everyone, because you had helped me get more people that once they die, they're all going to be going to hell because of you. So how's that reflect upon me? Well, what do I do most of the time? I'm always, not that I'm going to change, but I'm always making people angry towards me, not intentionally. I'm just basically venting myself. But I've done in the past, making people angry towards me that I talk about, who think that I'm talking about them. I actually had people stop talking to me. And just like this character, though, does that mean I'm going to go to hell after doing a podcast for X amount of years? I hope not. But it was just kind of like, so to speak, it was almost like too close to home, this episode. It was kind of weird. But at the same time, it kind of made me look at it. I was like, wow, hey, that's me. So, yeah. Anyway, I just had to mention that. Probably make this now almost a 2-hour show. When I didn't intend to do that, but I did. So anyway, so thank you, by the way, for listening in. If you have done so, most people never make it through one of my shows because it's just really difficult. I thank my friend Matt because he actually does make the effort. So anyway, folks, thank you very much again, and you have a good week, because I probably won't be on until next weekend at this point. So in some ways, this should hold you over if you can suffer through this show of 2 hours of me babbling on. And you have a good rest of the week, and it's only 2 weeks until the holidays, so that's pretty cool. There's Hanukkah, there's Christmas, for us Christians, the birth of Christ, and, New Year's, and there's some other holidays, which I can't really say. There's actually, I saw somewhere on some calendar, I think it was sometime around now, is technically there is a date. It is, Santa Claus or whatever, the celebration of Santa Claus, Saint Nick, something like that. That's the beginning of December. So they incorporated a couple things when they made up Christmas the day they did. They incorporated the birth of Christ, which actually didn't happen, I think, precisely in December. I don't think. if I remember correctly. And some other things were incorporated to make this specific holiday, but generally for being Christian, that day of Christmas, which is, I apologize for forgetting, December 25th, is celebrated as the birth of Christ if you're a Christian. So everyone, have a good week, and hope you enjoyed my show, and have an excellent week coming ahead. This is Walter from iWalter, signing off for now.